success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat for you. Joining me in the Hit Lab today, folks, I've got the co-founder, president, and CEO of Verge Agritech. All right. Now, Verge Agritech is providing consulting services, advancing research and education, creating everyday life products, and developing lifestyle brands that transform customer experiences within the cannabis industry. Ding, ding, ding. You heard it right, folks. We're talking about some really, really fascinating and educational stuff that you need to know, folks. The co-founder, president, and CEO of Verge Agritech. Help me welcome Frederick Cawthon, baby. How we doing, man?
We're doing well. You know, I have to start out by sending a shout out to my friend Maris, who introduced me to your awesome wife, Ree, and just having an opportunity to spend some time with her, looking at healthcare options for me. And I told her my story. And then that got me to you, Nick. And I am just blessed that all of those dominoes fell. And so obviously it's not only a pleasure to be in this beautiful space, but to spend some time with someone as great as you. So thank you.
Well, if I'm still great after you met my bride, I'm doing pretty dang good. You know what I'm saying?
You are.
Because she is fantastic.
You're a dynamic duo. You both are.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And we love Maris. We love Maris. Been around Maris for a long time. So, dude, true or false? Folks, we're getting right into it here.
Let's do this.
True or false? The Constitution of the United States of America is made out of hemp paper.
Built on what? Made of what? Hemp. Yes. And you know, that really jumps into hemp is so much threaded i.e. thread and into our environment, our daily lives, that we don't know it because there's been a narrative around hemp. You know, going back as far as to Thomas Jefferson, who had a quote, I have to read it here. Hemp is a first necessity to the wealth and protection of the country. That was Thomas Jefferson that was talking about hemp.
He's pretty important, isn't he?
He is, like, we all know Thomas Jefferson, right?
That's right.
Yes, but we kind of lost sight of that. And, you know, what started back in the 1920s changed the world. You know, if you think about it, China never stopped producing hemp. Australia has been producing hemp, but for some reason, the United States by 1972 had put hemp and that other plant, marijuana, on this controlled Schedule 1 list with the DEA, right?
Why is that?
Okay. And to me, that's the most profound question to even ask is why or how did we get here?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And so, you know, for me, and, you know, there, you can go out on YouTube and find multiple stories on YouTube and or just Googling it, right? Of the fact that there was a war. You know, we know about the war on drugs from the 80s, but no, the war on hemp started in the 1920s.
Okay.
You have a lot of interests.
Okay.
That even today are the most predominant industries that we know, but it created the industrial age. Well, if you go back to Thomas Jefferson time, hemp was grown. And it was a time in this country you would have even been fined if you had agricultural land and was not using some portion of that land to grow hemp. And then when you looked at families, small family farms would use this crop as the savings little bonus, Christmas bonus that they would use to go out and buy supplies or things for the kids, right?
So people were getting hemp for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, they weren't getting the hemp, but the sale of that hemp, by you growing it, gave you that little extra bit of income.
And that was 100 years ago.
And that was 100 years ago. This was normal.
Wow.
Right? But then you look at and you say, well, why would they have stopped the plant? Because, I think even with the war on drugs and marijuana, that was just, you focus on this, but we're really killing that. When we go back to that time, let's talk about the Hearst family. And everything I'm saying is Googleable. Frederick's not making this up. We will get into my story, how I've got here, but everything I've learned to date, I never knew, right? I was just like any guest that's listening in right now or watching. And
like, hemp was a word that I grew up with. I grew up, marijuana was a drug. It was bad. Mm-hmm. And hemp was just something that, like, we all got hemp tattoos. Like, that's all I knew about hemp. There was no internet to Google anything.
Right.
But hemp tattoos were just temporary tattoos that were very normal. They were in all the theme parks, and that was just a thing. That was all I ever heard about hemp growing up, was that, just temporary tattoos.
So I want to really double click, and then we're going to fast forward on back then to when we started Reefer Madness. And all of those films and propaganda that has been put forth. Pharmaceutical. So let me step back. Hemp is
what is hemp? There you go.
Yeah. Hemp is the one plant that can provide medicinal benefits. Mm-hmm. It can clothe you.
Okay.
Hemp fabrics. It can feed you. Hemp protein, omega-3s. Like out the wazoo when it comes to hemp. It can house you, clothe you, feed you, and medicinally take care of you.
Wow.
That one plant. But then one other thing, what is hemp? Let's start with the family lineage. So hemp and marijuana are in the same family. We've all, well, not we all, but anybody who's aware of marijuana has probably heard of indica and sativa.
I have.
And, for those who say indica, some people say in the couch because the effects of indica can put you in the couch where it's like, I'm cool. I'm not going anywhere. Just give me some food. Well, hemp is off of the sativa.
Okay.
L specifically side of the plant. And so I always use the analogy of a family. I show up at the family reunion. I'm a Cawthon. Okay. There's Cawthons at this side of the family reunion. My cousin is a Cawthon. I'm a cousin, because there's this whole big, even within the industry, of trying to differentiate or separate hemp from marijuana. And you can understand why, because when advocacy really first started, say 30 years ago, it really picked up momentum to get us where we are today. Our forefathers in that movement wanted to separate themselves from the stigma of marijuana, but it's like separating yourself from your cousin. You're a Cawthon. This is my cousin, but no, I'm not related to them. Like, how can you do that? But we've done that. And I understand why, given the time and the political environment, they had to say we're different from that, which we are, but we still have the same lineage. We come from the same Eastern background.
Do you think that was done because of just like, I don't know why they would want to distance themselves from it unless it was just because of the fear of the unknown. They just didn't know enough about it to defend it.
And even there you go. It's that plus you don't walk in with a negative, right?
Ooh. That's not smart if you do anything. I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. And so you focused on, here's what we are. So getting back to what we are, hemp is the one plant that is both male and female.
I didn't know that.
Think about what I just said. Hemp, even going back to, would you eat cotton?
Would I eat cotton? Not the kind you buy in the store.
No.
It wouldn't be very good.
Right. And would you wear soybeans?
Probably not.
Probably not, right?
Unless I want to get arrested.
But hemp is both the female has the feminine characteristics.
Okay.
So when I talk about healing aspects, another industry that I would think would not want hemp to be what it is the female provides the oil.
Okay.
So when we talk about biofuel,
yeah.
Going back to Ford, Henry Ford, it's all Googleable, everyone. Not making this up. Henry Ford built a hemp car that was fueled on hemp. Yeah. And it didn't get out of, it disappeared. But now let's fast forward to right now. If you're driving a Mercedes, I love it. I'm going to say it this way. There are anti-cannabis, anti-hemp people who will go get in there, get out of having a conversation saying hemp is bad and go get into a Mercedes-Benz SUV manufactured in Alabama, and over 60% of that car is hemp.
Let's go. Like
it's that normalized, but no, it gets back to the narrative of industries who wanted to kill this plant, whether it was pharmaceutical, the publishing companies who the Hearst family own a lot of forestries.
Sounds like to me the hemp farmer would have way too much power is kind of what I'm coming to the conclusion of right now.
Well, and farming, we're built on farming. To me, a part of what Thomas Jefferson was even identifying is not only is the plant, but our sovereignty as a nation and our power is built on farmers. When we cease to farm in this country, we just lost.
Right.
We cannot produce. We cannot take care of our own if we cannot farm. Right. And then getting back to this plant, which I believe was in the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
Just with its benefits.
Right.
Male and female, the duality in life, the polarity of life, everything is masculine and feminine.
It's like it's a super plant, just like avocados are a superfood. Which this is a superfood. That's right.
And so, how did we get here is a lot of interest, the war on drugs, all of that created where we are. But here's where we are now, though. Okay. Since 2014, we started to research hemp. Tennessee was one of the original 13 states, Colorado, North Carolina, Oregon, other states within that number that Barack Obama, when he was president, allowed us to start doing research on this.
Good for Tennessee.
Great for Tennessee.
That's right.
I always tell everyone when I'm out west speaking that, because the West Coast was really the one who took off on cannabis, period.
Yep.
Remember when I say cannabis, I'm talking about marijuana and hemp. It's one family, cannabis. The West Coast took off, but we have the history and the lineage. This game at the end of the day will be owned again by the South, because if you go back to when hemp was king, it was Kentucky, North Carolina, Tennessee that were the largest growers. And even today, getting up in the East Tennessee and marijuana, when I'm out west, especially like California, everybody, when they think marijuana, they think Humboldt County, California.
Gotcha.
Best weed, right?
Right.
When I'm out there, they tell me about Tennessee.
Right.
These hills in Tennessee is where it started.
So I guess like the environment, the habitat in the South is better for that plant.
We're in the green belt.
Gotcha.
The most ideal premium place to grow is right here. This is the Garden of Eden right here. Getting back to this plant that when I was on that country road and my grandfather's pointed out, that's hemp right there. Yes, this is, and I think even a part of this bigger movement that is even beyond just the plant, but it's the mindfulness and other galvanizing community creatives that are in the space in Nashville. Like, this is such a beautiful time right now, not only to be a leader in this industry, but to be a leader in the state and working on it here in Nashville, just with all the other collective energy that's feeding to me towards the same place of not, I used to say saving the planet, but it's really saving our people. And it's not, I'm going to go save you, but no, consciousness,
right?
Waking up. It's a lot of things that we've been taught.
Yeah. That
if you start to really focus on, and I'll even go to church, that preacher pastor. I grew up in the church. I'm one of those, even though it was my grandfather, I consider myself a PK. And people of the church know what I just said. Just by I'm a preacher's kid.
Yep.
Right? But as I've matured, I realize whether it's media, society as a whole, there's a narrative and then there's the word.
Right.
There's what's written, known. Literally, I've sat in church now and I hear it, where a preacher can read the text of the Bible, but then tell me a narrative.
There was a certain level of trust that the generations before my generation had when it came to doctors, hospitals, and our government. There was a level of trust that had been earned, because that's how trust is. That's how you get trust, is you earn it.
Right.
And so I think, those generations are the ones that this is hardest to hear. And, in talking with my folks and my in-laws about it, it's not that they've villainized the plant or anything like that. It's the fact that it's just so hard to say, was I told wrong that long?
Well, here's the problem, and this is a conversation with Republican leaders within the state. When we're up there at Cordell Hall, who are pro the plant. But here's the hurdle that they have. We've built up so much stigma, and they don't know how to peel that back, carve that back.
Right.
How can they, if over 70 years we've been in the church saying this is the devil's lettuce?
Yes.
How can you now go back and say, oh no, we got that wrong? There are medicinal actual benefits. Here's another fact.
Lots of them. There's a lot.
Here's another fact for your listeners. Google it. Guess who owns the patent on THC and CBD?
Okay.
The United States government. Come on now.
That's right.
The government that is saying this is bad for you
owns the patents.
We have a patent on it.
So I think it was Socrates that questioned everything when somebody would say something. How do they know that? How do you know that? Like, so, when we ask, that's something we use when I'm talking like mom or dad about this. Well, this is what I was taught. This is what I believe. How do you know that? Well, it was what I was taught. How did they know that? Like, always going back to your sources. And that's just an old, I believe it was a Socrates exercise.
You know what? I believe one of our biggest problems right now is education. Biggest opportunity. I won't even call it a problem. One of our biggest opportunities as an industry is education. But then one of the key constituents that will have an effect on every other generation is seniors right now. If you're in a church and if the old church lady starts using CBD for back pains or whatever, and she's saying, oh no, this is working, that just changed the narrative right there. Because if grandmama's using it, it must be good for the kids. It must be good. Yeah.
Yep.
When we can convince the seniors that everything that they were taught wasn't necessarily true, and that they're a benefit, and that story is being told though.
And it's just generational, and the information and the beliefs are generational. They're passed on from one to the next.
I mean, because the younger kids, they're getting it. But how do we have the biggest impact right now?
Right.
Versus waiting for this younger generation to become old and have matriculated that out down through their kids. No, it's getting that story out, and it's happening. Because I have so many people that as I'm traveling, encountering, where they're telling me the stories of how it impacted. So now let's get in. How did I get here?
That's where we're going. So folks, check it out. Frederick has a BBA and an MBA, all right, from Tennessee State University. And prior to his work in this industry, he spent 20 plus years, a couple decades, in product and program management roles for various Fortune 500 companies, right? So you had a really successful career that you kind of left behind to do this. And that's what I'm curious about is why, right?
Why, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And my why, everyone's why, once you can figure it out, it's truly your purpose. I mean, this is my purpose project, as they say. Mm-hmm. It starts with one of the most important people in my existence, which is my mother, who passed away January 2021.
Sorry to hear about that.
It was not from COVID, though. It was how I got to hemp. Is she in 2012 was diagnosed with dementia.
Okay.
If we go back to 2012, there was not a lot of understanding knowledge on dementia, but that diagnosis was after a series of years, over 7 years, probably 10 years of her going from one doctor to the next and being, I'm going to say, misdiagnosed. I mean, at one point she had lupus, like they just kept telling us
something's wrong.
She had this.
Yeah.
Let's put her on this medication. 6 months later, it's not working. Let's bump up the milligrams.
Oh, yeah.
And then after you get through about a year or whatever time with this specialist, she was referred to another specialist. To about the 2012 August timeframe, oh, we done figured it out. She has dementia. After that, as a family, we were questioning, going back to what you was talking about, healthcare, we're supposed to trust.
Right.
We had a jaundiced eye for the medical industry, and don't read what I'm saying. There are good doctors.
Absolutely.
Right.
I took a Z-Pack a few weeks ago when I was under the weather, and
exactly,
and it helped a lot.
But there's a system
sure,
that is about profitability, right? And my mom,
all those institutions, medical institutions, are privately owned. They're businesses.
Exactly.
And business, you go into business to turn a profit.
To turn a profit.
Period.
Right? Period.
Yes. Through a service or a good.
Yes. Yeah. And so I then started just looking for other holistic alternative ways. Hemp didn't necessarily just come out in the beginning, but it was 2013 that Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, did the first Weed One episode talking about these Stanley brothers who had found the strain or developed a strain that had impact on Charlotte Figgy's seizures. And shortly after that, there was a big rush to Colorado because that's where the Stanley brothers are from. Yeah. But watching that episode, at the end of it, with this overwhelming amount of information, I truly believe I spoke something into the universe, and the universe responded. Because I said, Lord, how can I be a part of that? And I'm a product manager at the time, running a portfolio for a company. And I knew how to go out, do research, understand how to come out with whatever the new product is, right? Right. I started using that talent to understand, well, what is this that they are? Now, going back then, you Google it, there wasn't a lot of information. It's not the amount of information you see now. And so then that led to me connecting through social channels, meeting people, traveling. I went from Canada to the West Coast, just started connecting with people. Right. Then fast forward to 2016. I meet now one of my current partners at a funeral in Jackson, Tennessee, Sean Bledsoe. He's the funeral home owner, 4th generation owner, family. He said something that at the time, so corporate America, if I said hemp, you said marijuana.
Right.
So I didn't say it. Sean said the secret word. As he's talking to me, he's talking about he's vegan, he's alkaline, and how his industry is destroying Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to introduce hemp, natural burials, hemp caskets, hemp urns. And I said, you just said the secret word. But I, at the time, was only looking at it for how can I help my mom?
Right.
And that was the feminine side of the plant.
Right.
He's talking about the industrial, the male that will clothe you, that will house you and make all these industrial parts. When I was talking about Mercedes-Benz, they're using that male plant.
Right.
To manufacture.
Right.
Right. And so that opened my eyes. And actually what I said to him, because I wasn't thinking business.
Okay.
I'm here for mama.
Sure.
Right.
Right. Right.
And he had this vision. And I said to him, what I do for corporate America is I turn their dreams into reality. You own a business, I'm working for you. That's my role as a product manager, project manager. What am I doing?
Right.
In a nutshell, you have a vision where you wanting to take this. I'm the one that brings it into the physical realm. What's in your mind, Sean, I can do that for you.
That's right. That's right.
And we literally committed that day to walk on a journey. We spoke the words, man, let's walk down this road together, not fully appreciating that. No, we were again back to when I'm on that couch.
All you had was each other at that point.
Yes. Yes.
It's you two against everybody else.
Yes. And so we started to walk down that road, pulled in other partners. By 2018, we had formed a company. That's what is Verge Agritech today. And really, when we say Verge Agritech, so I come from technology background. And what I, along the way, come to understand is this plant is a technology. Yes. I.e., what is Mercedes-Benz using it for?
That's right.
It's in the door panels, the insulation, the seat cushions.
Yeah. All
of that is hemp. And so Verge Agritech is convergence of agriculture and technology. I see us right now that we're moving into, everything is cyclical, right? There's 5, 3, 7 year, 100 year. And what I'm focused on is 100, 2010, Nashville had the greatest flood that we'll probably see in our lifetimes in this city. And what did they tell you that was? It was 100-year flood.
Right. Right. That's exactly right.
Okay. And so still going with that same thought of cyclical. We are now in the pandemic, no different from when the H1N1 back in the 1917, 18 timeframe created a paradigm shift that ushered on the industrial age. It's just me saying this, but I believe history will vet me out that we are transitioning into a plant-based technology age.
I can see that.
And hemp is getting ready to be not the only panacea, but a very instrumental part of bringing on where we as a people are not only conscious, because there's a big war on woke right now, right? And I laugh at it. For both sides.
Sure.
I'm standing up here I'm not looking down on you, but I'm looking at it from a different elevation. I will say that.
Yeah.
Right? Like Caesar sitting in the Colosseum and the warriors are down there fighting, because that's literally how it looks.
That's right.
To me. Sidetrack. I had a mentor that said to me, and I was going through a divorce at the time, about don't engage negatively with my ex-wife, because all people saw was two pigs swallowing in the mud. They didn't know which one was right or wrong.
That's really good.
And so this quote unquote war on wokeness, really, this is what woke is versus conscious,
Okay.
fully conscious. You were in the bed, hypothetical. Ree got up earlier and was getting ready to head out the door, and she kissed you. Nick, love you, babe. Can you run by the laundry and pick up that dress for that event we're going to tonight? And you kiss her and you say, yeah, babe, I got it. And then you fall back out. You were woke when she said that, right?
Yep.
But then she gets home in the afternoon, rushing in. Hey, I'm ready to get dressed. Let's do this event. Where my dress at? And you looking at what dress? What are you talking about? You woke. You had the conversation. You kissed her, but you weren't fully conscious.
Right.
So when we're talking about woke, to me, that's what woke is.
Gotcha. Okay.
We need to be fully conscious because we go in states of wokeness. Throughout my life, I've been woke. But then, and this is getting into, why don't people care? Right?
Okay.
Why don't we take notice of things and then realize that we can have impact on them?
All right.
It's because we fall back to sleep into getting the kids to school, whatever the issues in our life, the depression I'm dealing with. We can't get beyond. And to me, woke versus fully conscious is when you just, I'm going to go to the matrix now. When you take the red pill and you can never go back.
Right.
You can never not see what you saw.
Right.
You can't get away from it. And I've gotten to a point in like I can't get away from it.
It feels like that's a new thing, but like 50 years ago, you thought you knew somebody and then you saw them in a conversation where maybe they thought the doors were closed or something. You saw a totally different side of them and you can't unsee that. You can't unsee that.
Right.
Okay. That's when I hear you talk about that, that's kind of where my mind goes.
Yeah. No. And so the enlightenment that I've come into and understanding how we got here with this plant, the benefits of this plant, who had the means to kill it and the same means to profit from killing it. And then, all the, in our foods, for example, all of the ingredients that are not healthy for us. Well, here's the one benefit of when you grow hemp. We can't use pesticides in hemp. The clothing that we all are wearing right now, it looks good, but there's so many chemicals that we're putting, when we talk about why are we getting sick? We're getting sick because this vessel that we have, it's what we're wearing.
Right.
It's what we're feeding ourselves. Can't even trust the water.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And we're 70% water.
The ingredients are so bad in all this stuff, especially when you see how they differ in our country versus other countries.
I just got back from Tulum, and everything I was eating was fresh.
Yeah, that's right.
Fresh. Yes. And you could taste the difference.
Absolutely.
My daughters are really tasting the difference. But then now you're taking me back to when I was a child and small family farm, that Southern preacher down there in West Tennessee, we had the pantry, and the pantry was always filled. And even with my parents, grandmama, and we would, in the summertime, can soup. Wasn't no camel soup. It was like out the backyard in that three acre garden that they had on the farm. Everything from squash, like literally, I don't even want to go through it because every watermelon and cantaloupe was over there on the side. Like, it was a beautiful time. And here's what I remember being in Norfolk, Virginia, and we had ran out of jelly. And mom had cooked breakfast, and she went out, and I'm not even going to say the brand, but it's top shelf brand.
Okay.
That she bought as the replacement. And all of us kids was like, what is this?
Yeah, that's right.
But now my kids, it's normal to eat it. Me now, it's normal to eat it. We lost that.
Right.
We lost. So even when I say we're going through a 100-year cycle, I think we're getting back. I know we're getting back. I'm a part of getting us back to when we were natural feeding ourselves.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the mindfulness that my grandparents, my grandmother used to say this to me when I would be looking at her like, I'm not listening, I'm not hearing what you're saying. Big Mama gonna be dead and gone, but the Holy Spirit is gonna bring everything I'm saying back to you.
Amen.
And you know what? It's back.
Amen.
And back to the corporate America, everything I've learned has positioned me now to use that experience and to me do what my grandparents then were building me to do. Back to, we're all aliens. I'm an alien. I saw them as aliens.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense of like, nah.
Yeah.
They knew what they were talking about.
Well, it's crazy, if you walked up to just about any person that's not, some people like are risk takers, I guess, but if you walk to just about anybody and said, hey man, close your eyes and open your mouth, I'm gonna put something in it. Well, what are you gonna put in it? I can't tell you. I'd be like, not for me. But we don't do that with the ingredients in a lot of the foods. You know what I mean? And like, you can get somebody to read the label. What is that? Like, what is that? I don't know. Then why are you putting it in your mouth? Again, because if close your eyes, and I'm not going to tell you what's coming in there, but I'm going to put something in there. I'd be like, no, man, I want to know what it is. But
and now let's double click on hemp is a superfood.
And I know I learned this when my son first came up. That's when we had our first kid. That's when we first started really paying attention to what the food we ate. And that was one, I didn't know the health benefits of not eating the bad stuff. I didn't know, just because all I did know was I'd been eating the same things my whole life. And I didn't know how bad they actually made me feel, because it was just an everyday feeling. And so my wife is very knowledgeable when it comes to this stuff. She's leading the charge at our house, okay? And all of what I know when it comes to these things, and I have some degrees in this stuff, but past school, I didn't really, she's the one that's current. She's leading that charge in our home. And our son ate avocados all the time. And I always thought avocado was green and guacamole, and I didn't like it as a kid, so didn't eat it. And my son ate it all the time and loved it, and still does to this day. And our 2-year-old daughter, that's what she eats for breakfast every day is an avocado. She loves it, right? And my wife was like, yeah, it's one of the only foods that you can solely survive off of. That's all you ate was avocado. It's a superfood.
It's a superfood.
And I was like, well, I'll be dang. And it's funny, the more I ate it, the more I started to crave that freshness, that naturalness.
And even when you mentioned not liking it, I remember a time I did not like avocados, but here's what it was. It was the canned version of avocado. The first time I'm in New York, working for a New York corporation, my vice president had me out to dinner and had tableside service where they came out with the avocados and they made it fresh.
That's the best.
I liked avocados.
That's right. That is right.
It gets back to that freshness, and one of the opportunities here, I want to focus again real quickly on the farmer. Tobacco is dying.
I agree with that.
What this plant also presents an opportunity is to provide another cash crop for our farmers. Getting back to the sovereignty, we need to have a strong farming base, and we need to get beyond, here's my dream. I've been working with Dr. Hatcher at Tennessee Department of Agriculture, has started dialogue with Commissioner McWhorter at Tennessee Economic and Development. And, and had the opportunity back here in March 2023 where Dr. Hatcher from TDA accompanied me to kind of do an introduction, an inform session with Commissioner McWhorter. And really, I looked at both of those entities as TDA, Tennessee Department of Agriculture, that's the supply side. That's our farmers, that's our processing. The economic and development, that's the demand side. That's who has all the relationships with all the companies that have been relocating here forward. And where I'm going with this is the automotive industry.
Yep.
When I met and started down this road on behalf of my role as president of the Hemp Alliance of Tennessee back in October 2021, a team of us went in and presented this opportunity of the industrial side of the plant and really building our muscles as a state and being number one in this and getting back to our lineage and our heritage that hemp was king here in the South.
Right.
Last contract with the Department of Defense to provide hemp for ropes for ships was granted to the state of Tennessee. That contract never, happened because the war and killing it. And so it never materialized, but the contract was signed.
Wow.
Right. And so we presented a use case, automotive. At the time we already had Nissan, Volkswagen, which from research we already had figured out Volkswagen is shipping in hemp from Europe right now.
Wow.
This plant that we can grow in the state, manufacture. So I've been talking about Mercedes-Benz. No, all of the European car dealers are incorporating hemp into their cars today. How I even first became aware of it, if I go into BMW Nashville, I'm the cannabis guy, right? And my guy, shout out to Brandon Burdett, he always takes care of me there at BMW Nashville. He said, Frederick, I'm bringing my old X3 and I'm an X3 fan. And he said, you seen the 2018s out there? The M40i? I was like, no, what? One, I'm glad they finally got an M in that class, right? And he was saying, they got hemp in the car, man. The door insulation in that car is hemp. And then if you talk about the 7 Series, the dashboard and all of that. And then, so just coming with my background, my first question is, how are they getting it in? And he said what I thought is being shipped in from Europe.
Golly.
Okay. But then here's the problem. Transportation costs, economies of scale. And, there's no way that you can continue to increase the amount of percentage of this material in this vehicle by shipping it.
Right.
You got to start sourcing locally.
All right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah. And so that's where my mind, so back in 2018, January, when I walked off into BMW, that planted that seed of it's in the country. Then by 2021, researching with the team, we knew it's not only in the country, it's in the state at Volkswagen. But then here's how Tennessee even got off into this game as far as being a part of the pilot states. Senator Frank Nicely and some legislative representatives from Tennessee, 2014, I want to say, went over to Europe and visited the Mercedes-Benz plant. And at the time, Mercedes-Benz had already had a forecast or planning in place that by X date, they wanted that car to be over 70, 80% hemp.
Got it.
They was already incorporating hemp.
Gotcha.
Which had this Republican come back to the state and said, we're farming and commerce state. We need to be farming this plant. And that got us with the changes at the legislative level in the state to then when Barack is signing that bill to let's start researching this, we were at the table, literally.
Everything you're saying today is a great example of how we talk about all the time in paradigm shifts and mindset change and growth and all those things. The only way to change your beliefs is through new information. You got to seek new information.
That's getting back to speaking with Commissioner Hatch or McWhorter is when I 2021 walked into TDA speaking with their team, Commissioner Hatcher made me aware of that with the governor signing the agreement for Ford to build Blue Oval City in West Tennessee. Tennessee just became the largest. When that plant comes online, we will be the largest automotive manufacturing state in the country. That's right here. And we also know that, so Europeans are ahead of us because they have the 2030 mandate that they got to be carbon neutral, all their manufacturing, right?
Okay.
So that was part, I'm sure, of the precedence that made, you know, in addition to their green sustainable goals, but there's a deadline out there, right? However, companies are seeing the benefit of this plant being that it's lighter. Okay, we're going EVs now. The batteries are heavy.
Right.
But then hemp is fire retardant too. So there's an opportunity to have hemp as the battery casing in case that battery explodes. Right. In building, if you build with hempcrete, you have the ability to add additional space to your house building because you're not needing to put in all that insulation.
Wow.
Then, you know, one of the things I hadn't shared is just about the benefits of the plant to Mother Earth is it sequesters CO2. And then it mediates impurities from the earth. So here's another moment for you.
Okay.
Chernobyl.
Yep.
Familiar with Chernobyl?
Yes, sir.
Not, you know, nuclear disaster.
Yep.
Right.
And supposedly they just covered it up with a temporary concrete that's only going to last so long.
So no, that was about 82, somewhere off in
Okay.
there. I'd say about 94. They started growing hemp on the compound to sequester, remediate the soil.
Smart. Real smart.
Look at that. Smart, using the plant, right? Yeah. But, you know, that even though that might have made the news, it just didn't bubble up to say, ooh, there's a...
I never heard that before. And I'm very fascinated with that whole thing. I've watched a lot of the documentaries on it. And, you know, in the last 5 years, there's been a lot put out about that disaster, even some kind of fictionalized shows about it, you know, and based on true events and whatnot. I've never heard one time that they're helping mediate it and balance it with hemp.
I always say, Google it.
Yeah, that's right.
But then, you know, it's so much mass information out there. And then getting back to, man, I'm just worried about paying the rent. I don't know if I have time, you know, and that's why this is a passion, you know, and to me, just even the level of understanding that I have and all this, and these nuggets that I got, right? During the shutdown of the pandemic. And that's coming off of, you know, even fast forward after the research bill was passed, then President Trump signed the 2018 Farm Bill, which that Farm Bill commercialized and legalized hemp on all. It literally says legalizing hemp on all U.S. soil.
Wow. Okay.
President Trump did that.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that yet either.
Okay. See, but the Farm Bill goes every 4 or 5 years. There's, in fact, the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, we're working on the 2023 Farm Bill right now. Okay. Literally. So about every 4 years, 5 years, there's a Farm Bill. And hemp is agriculture. That's how it got legalized. And so here's what happened, though. We went from the 13 states to everybody and their mama because this new opportunities from the farmer's perspective, right, and even entrepreneurs jumped into this space, right? And we had an oversupply. Organization called Pan Exchange, who monitors data and, you know, provides data for the industry. Back 2019 is when the market crashed. Okay, and they said it was over 200 million pounds of hemp oversupply sitting in barns, on fields, warehouses. Yeah. And, you know, my company that had started in 2018. Right. And in 2019, we did about 200, close, about 100 acres is what we did. Had a contract, you know, they always say, have a contract. Absolutely. No, we had a contract, but then the processor that we had a contract with, things fell apart there. Then that left us with a 7-figure loss on our end. And fast forward to the pandemic, and I remember when it was silent, no planes moving or anything. We're all at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm furloughed from my job. And I walked out, my corporate job. And I walked out because I woke up that morning with, what am I doing?
Right. So
what are you doing?
So when you had the 100 acres of hemp farm, you were still in corporate America. That was like an investment, right? That was an investment.
Well, I was doing, I didn't sleep.
Gotcha.
My girls are grown. Again, this is my passion.
Right.
Yeah, I sleep, breathe, eat this. I did my day job, but then what I love to do is this,
And you got into it because of mama.
Yeah.
And again, and now
this is getting back to that point where you're saying, why am I with all the stress, the challenges, the world just breaking apart.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, it goes what we're talking about all the time here, which is the person you're most uniquely positioned to help is the person that you used to be. So how many other people have mama or a family member or a loved one struggling with dementia or whatever it may be that are, living the story that's already been written for you.
And that's why I love to tell my story, because my story is their story.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so I'm standing there talking to God, and mama came back to me though, of why am I here? Why did I do this? Is because not only I can, have helped her, but then it's got bigger than that in the sense of helping others using the feminine side, the CBD, CBG, other oils that they can take. But then meeting Sean, and it's, well, not only that, you can help Mother Earth. So it got bigger than mom. It's about people and planet.
It's fantastic. That is fantastic. Folks, we're hanging out with Frederick Cawthon, the co-founder, president, and CEO of Verge Agritech. We're talking about cannabis and all the different types of it, all the effects, everything else, folks. VergeAgritech.com is their URL. You need to check it out, and you need to keep up with Frederick on Instagram at Frederick Cawthon, right? And all these links and everything else is also in our show notes. And you will be blessed when you do, right? So this is just it's such a fascinating thing, because the more you get into it and you learn, it really seems a lot like common sense. You know what I mean? But it's like hidden common sense.
I'm going to say it like the old people used to say it. Common sense ain't so common.
That's right. That's right. That's right. The same old people. John Wayne said, "Life's real hard, but it's even harder if you're stupid." Well, it's just, and again, you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't because you were seeking answers. You're seeking information, because everything, all of the things that these specialists and doctors and all the medicines they were prescribing, it just wasn't working. Wasn't working. You were looking for, there's got to be something. There's got to be something. And that's how you stumbled upon this, right? So the future. So where do you see this going? Look, it's just like you said before, 10 years ago, this wasn't even talked about. They were just temporary tattoos. That's all we know about them. 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 1 year from now, how's this going to play out? Where do you see this going?
So, I mentioned that 2023 Farm Bill, with my advocacy work with the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, we're, a larger group of us are in D.C. April and September. So my next trip to D.C. in regards to this will be September. We have boots on the ground that are actively weekly more involved. But
you need to go to the National Prayer Breakfast with us next year.
Please invite me.
It's fantastic. That's where I met Dr. Stephen Lloyd, who the show Dope Sick was about. Michael Keaton played him in that, about the opioid crisis and all the work he's doing right here in Mount Juliet.
You extend it, I'm there.
You will have a great time. That's going to be a good time.
No, and
to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
I need to be in those those rooms.
Absolutely.
Because this is where we have change.
Absolutely.
Like, yes.
And it's a fantastic event. Like, it's just, I think that was the most refreshing thing to us is just God was there, man. He's in God's still in the government. Like with the media ain't talking about it. And it's real hard to find that information, but I saw it in person.
So, it's sad that you even have to say God is still in the government.
I agree.
Because look, as I look around this room, whether it's us as humans, beings, everything that is materialized is God. Mm-hmm. God is in everything. We have nothing without God. So we can't cut out God. Like literally.
That's right.
Because we don't exist.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. I agree.
Yeah. So when we talk about what can be done and the next, how is it going to play out?
Let me ask you this. What do we know that just hadn't come out yet? What's the next bit of information we're going to hear about?
We're going to continue to see progression in the industrial space as far as innovation and really providing, I'm looking around this room, everything that we are sitting in, this desk, is going to start being hemp because so many companies have gotten on board putting in teams to lead their sustainability efforts.
And it's abundant, right? So we're not going to run out. As a matter, like you just said, it's
the opportunity to grow it. That's an opportunity right now. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that, we're not seeing the manufacturers from Europe be able to produce those products here is we don't have enough farmers farming it.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm working with a group right now where we're hoping to, in a 5-year period, scale to 1 million acres.
Why aren't what's keeping the farmers from just jumping all over it? Because they know about it. They talk. There's you know what I mean? There's conversations.
It's two pieces. One, let me go to the female side. Why don't you see, the big box stores, the Pepsis and all of that, they're ready to jump in and introduce this new product. What's holding them back is FDA approval. Food, because think Food and Drug Administration. Right. Even though the U.S., the Farm Bill and USDA, that was approved. Trump got that done. That just gave us the ability to grow it. Right. But not move it across state lines.
Yeah, but not consume, not put it in food and consume it.
This is a big eye opener right here. Every product that's on the shelf that has hemp in it is illegal.
Wow.
Because there is no law or administrative process of regulating it.
Gotcha.
With the Food and Drug Administration. And for whatever reason, and I'm not going to even get into what people speculate, because if you're not sitting inside there and the decision maker, you don't know why you're not moving forward.
Right.
But with as much information that our organizations, Europe is way ahead of us on research and development. Israel has some of the biggest catalogs of data on what not only THC, but hemp cannabinoids can do. The USDA is not moving forward to make it fully legal, set up the process of how we regulate it within this country. As soon as we can get that hurdle successfully overcome.
Game on.
Oh, so that's just on the female side. So now let's talk about the industrial, how do we tap into the forwards and
it's on the food side. It's almost like they'll be, would that fall under the organic section? Because, the same food, they'll have this bag of chips that's regular labeling and this bag of chip looks just like it, except it's maybe a different shade of green or something that says it's organic, right?
And it'll even bleed beyond that, because even though the product might not be defined as organic, it'll still be in it. Your protein drinks and all of that. Yeah. That hemp will be the next soybean. because soybeans right now is in pretty much every type of food product today. Hemp is getting ready to be, I won't say it's going to replace soybeans, but it's going to be an alternative.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating. So you were talking about past the cars.
Yeah. So once we can get on the industrial side, where we got to get is scalability. Let me tell you, like hemp wood, Greg Wilson up in Murray, Kentucky, right up the road. In fact, I just had a brand new house built here in Nashville, and with me doing what I do, I'm president of Hemp Alliance. Got this company. My youngest daughter, Amira, she has a design company, Samaj Interior. And so my project, my baby's doing my project. And I said, there's no way I can have a house and we not incorporate hemp into this house. And so we've created she designed it. And I put on a text message with Greg. She had already come up with her mock-ups. And I'm reaching out to the CEO, asking him, who can I work with at your company on doing this custom work? He looked at it, loved it, and said, I would do this project. Like, yeah.
Good for him.
But, he produces beautiful wood flooring.
Okay.
That can go off into your house. But because of the price that he now has to pay to get that input in, makes him have to sell that at a premium.
Right.
And so that then make you not necessarily, it's a niche product. If you want some custom, something that if you can afford it, we need to make this thing more affordable for the average consumer.
Right.
And so how do we get there is we're going to have to be able to, that project I mentioned I'm working on, how do we get to scale where we're doing 1 million acres? Europe is doing 200,000+ acres just to supply the automotive industry. Okay.
That's not an insane amount.
That's not, right? We probably have 100 million acres or whatever in the United States.
Right.
How do we, and just our million is not still going to solve it for everybody, but how do we increase, it's economies of scale here.
Organic food is becoming more and more common the more we go. And it's funny that, the price is starting to come down on a little bit.
Economies of scale.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's why you have mergers and acquisition and you create big.
So it's going to be the most expensive in the beginning.
This is Amazon.
Yeah.
There's several things that guide me and have guided me over time. And a lot of it has been watching the JP Morgans of our day, the Barons, the Commodore Vanderbilts of our day, which is the Jeff Bezos and, the Steve Jobs and all of those guys. I watched them, but I'm an economics and finance major. And so just coming up out of that discipline gave me a lens towards people like that to see what they're doing. So let's talk about how Amazon was built. It competes on price.
Right.
But he built this, the light bulb went off for me when it's like, well, why would he name it Amazon? Because, back when he created Books A Million, he created a bookstore.
Right.
Right? Yeah. But it was named Amazon. What is Amazon? It's a jungle.
Right.
And what has he created?
Yeah.
It's a jungle.
That's right. It is.
But he you cannot, not only is he competing on price, but how fast he get it to you. And so we gotta, how I'm, the lens I'm moving from is how do we do that with hemp? We got to make it cost competitive, and we got to be able to provide what the people need.
It's got to be accessible, right?
It's got to be accessible, right? Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: as we get towards the end of this sucker here, the folks that need and want to seek more information, to educate themselves.
And,
right.
And take action too.
Absolutely.
I want to be here to not only provide information, but I want to equip everyone before we leave on how can you make a difference.
Well, if they're doing research, how do they know a trusted source versus an untrustworthy source? And then from there, how do they take what's the best steps to take action? Yeah,
because there are some Breaking Bad, like the movie or the show Breaking Bad. Yeah. I'm doing it in the bathtub type products out here. Your best is each state has a hemp association.
Okay.
And if you get into the marijuana states, they have cannabis or marijuana side association. Right. To do your research, go look up and see what companies, because your reputable companies are tied to an association that are spending the money, investing time to get the laws changed to regulate this industry.
Isn't that crazy that the prices that we pay on stuff like this are not, they're driven up so much because not of getting the product, making the product, distributing the product. It's because of all the legal expense that comes along with changing the law or writing a new law. And we pay for that.
Tennessee just had a law change that's actually going to push out a lot of the small operators. I'm being a president of the alliance. I'm the one getting the complaint. And hearing the story and understanding how it's negatively impacting them, and think about this, even though it was legally at the federal level Farm Bill approved, it's a state by state, district by district, county by county. This DA over here has this way of thinking about it. We really, until FDA kind of comes in and puts in, no, here's how we're going to regulate this for the country.
Yeah.
A small firm like mine has to understand, and we're small.
Okay.
Literally. And 90% of us are small.
They said that about David too.
Yeah.
And,
we have to kind of try to keep up with everything from county to county, state to state when we're shipping product. Yeah. No. And it's, financially it's a burden. Yeah. But we just need, but getting back to really the people, how can they get involved? Ask your legislators, your councilmen,
the people we vote for.
It all starts there. If we the people of these United States of America don't speak out,
right?
It's not. That's all politicians care about is whenever you go meet with a politician, watch this. It's consistent. Red or blue or independent, first thing they're going to ask you, are you a registered voter?
Right.
Okay. They're weeding you out of, do I care about what the hell you get ready to say? and then they're going to ask where you live, because they want to know you in their district.
Right.
If you're not a registered voter, dude, you don't even matter. And if you're not in my district, you don't matter to me.
Right. And and that's their way of holding us accountable too. There's some accountability there. Right. So absolutely. It's not a relevant conversation if you ain't going to go out and do something with it.
And we do have the ability to make impact. If any one of us would just go down, call the office, schedule time, go down and meet and spend time with your representative.
Yeah.
When I'm in DC, I'm in Blackburn's office.
Gotcha.
Like literally meeting her team. And here's the other thing too.
That's cool, by the way.
It is cool. The team is the gatekeeper.
Right.
That chief of staff and whoever you're meeting
with.
If you can convince them,
right,
that's how you get the influence.
That's who the decision maker is listening to.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. There's they sit at the front and guard that door for a reason. They're trusted.
Yes.
Trustworthy level is they're trusted.
So I would ask all of us, was this down to how many stoplights you got in your neighborhood? Let's spend some time. We go spend time on everything else. Please I implore you, not just this about hemp, but whatever is of concern to you that you want to get done better. Yes. That's the biggest impact that we all can have as an individual and a collective, because then it becomes a collective. Because the loudest voice right now is what's winning. Whatever you're seeing that you don't like, it's because the loudest voice,
that's right,
is doing what I just said.
And I do love the name, folks. If it's really easy to remember when you understand how he explained it. Agricultural and technology, and it's both.
Yeah,
Verge Agritech. That's right. And I know one trusted source while they're trying to figure out all the rest of them, and that's vergeagritech.com.
Yes, and I'll even put another, one of our brands that we've created is Radical Labs. We can be found at theradicallabs.com. Have both Delta 9 and Delta 8 THC products. Well,
I'm not going to throw any family members under the bus just because, again, this is it's a forever changing industry, but like I have family members that thought this was the devil's stuff, man. Wouldn't touch it. Didn't even want to talk about it. Didn't want to hear about it. But again, circumstances make you do things. And there was some things where modern medicine wasn't working, and got them to, a gummy or a cream or an oil with CBD in it, changed their life, and it changed their perspective.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, and it's funny too, because there was some guilt there in the beginning that eventually wore off because of the effects. But it does. It works.
That's you coming into a degree of consciousness.
We came full circle. We just did it. That's right.
That's the universe, though.
That's right.
Even me having the blessing of Marish, Rhea, Nick, your platform.
Right.
That's the universe and getting out this message. And I thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, this is a pleasure. And I'm going to hit you up for two things. While we're still on the show right now, which is number one, I'm gonna need you I'd like to know how this is evolving, at least on an annual basis. I'm gonna need to bring you in here at least once a year.
I would love
to
that.
talk about it. And then number two, and we're gonna talk about this after we're done. The most effective tool in my tool belt on a professional level today is this show. I get to have conversations just like we're having now that we really might not have a reason to have one, without a platform like this. And I talked to Stephen Lloyd about this. I've talked to a lot of my guests about this that don't have a podcast. You need to strongly consider having one, because you can bring in other experts and give people a platform yourself on this and expand your reach. I mean, our audience is international, and it turned that way quick. I couldn't tell you why in the beginning. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the amount of doors that this platform has opened for me and my family and so many others. It's unbelievable. You need to consider it.
No, thank you. The universe is telling me that you're just additional conversation of why you hadn't already started it. Thank you,
man. Well, it's just, again, it's when you have a show, you're not a the cool thing about podcasts is no network owns it. You do. Right. So I'm in control of this show. I'm in control of the guests we bring in. It's mine, and I can take ownership in it. And my agenda is those amazing stories like yours, along with all the information that comes with it that everybody benefits from, right? So it says it in the intro of the show that plays before every single show. Thanks Jim McCarthy and Ace Young and the Hit Lab creative team for that. But we're gonna have people on the show that nobody knows, or that everybody knows, and we're gonna have people on the show that nobody knows yet.
Everyone has a story, but his story.
Boom.
We make his story. We make his story.
We're writing it, aren't we? Well, Frederick, man, this was really cool, and I can't thank you enough for the time and all the information that you brought today, man. Folks, once again, we're hanging with Frederick Cawthon, the co-founder, president, and CEO of Verge Agritech. VergeAgritech.com is the URL. Check out Frederick on Instagram at Frederick Cawthon, and also check out theradicallabs.com.
Yes.
Right. So, folks, do your homework, man. Educate yourself. Get the information. Life's a lot easier and better when you do. Right.
You can make a difference. Know that. Believe that.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Frederick, thanks so much for hanging today, brother.
It's been a blessing.
That it has. That it has. Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.